I saw my daughter-in-law Ashley throwing my granddaughter Isabella's baby blanket into the trash. I didn't think twice. I ran toward the dumpster and rescued it before it was too late. Thinking of Isabella, I grabbed that blanket and took it straight to my house. When I spread it out on the bed, my fingers touched something strange. There was something hard sewn inside the fabric, hidden between the layers of cotton. Curiosity washed over me like a cold shiver. I grabbed a pair of scissors from the drawer. My hands were shaking as I carefully opened the seam, tearing thread by thread. And when I saw what was hidden inside, I was in complete shock. I never imagined that something so small, so quiet, could contain such horror. Because what I found wasn't just an object. It was the evidence of a lie that had lasted for years. It was the truth about my son's death. It was the darkest secret my daughter-in-law had kept. And when I understood what it really meant, I knew my life would never be the same. Before continuing, please subscribe and tell me where you are watching this story from. Because what I am about to tell you is something that I still find hard to believe is real. My name is Elelanina, and I am 69 years old. I have lived alone in this house for 3 years since the day I lost my only son. Matthew was only 32 years old when he died. It was in September, a Tuesday afternoon. I got a call from Ashley crying, screaming, telling me that Matthew had had an accident, that he had fallen down the stairs at their home, that he hit his head, that he wasn't responding. I got to the hospital in 15 minutes. I drove like a maniac. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. When I walked into the emergency room, Ashley was sitting in a chair, her face in her hands. She was wearing a pearl gray dress. She had bloodstains on the sleeves. She saw me and ran toward me. She hugged me. She sobbed against my shoulder. I just wanted to see my son. I needed to see him. A doctor came out. He looked at us with that expression all doctors have when they are about to give bad news. And he said the words that destroyed my world. Matthew had died. Severe head trauma. They couldn't do anything. I screamed. I cried. I collapsed on the cold hospital floor. Ashley held me. She told me everything would be all right, that Matthew would have wanted us to be strong. But nothing was all right. Nothing would ever be again. My husband had died 15 years ago from a heart attack, and now my son was gone too. Matthew was all I had left. He was a doctor, brilliant, dedicated. He worked long hours at the hospital saving lives. He had married Ashley 2 years before his death. She was a nurse too. They met at work. He introduced her to me one Sunday afternoon. I remember she was wearing a cream-colored dress and her smile was perfect too perfect. But Matthew was in love. His eyes shone when he looked at her. He told me she was the woman of his life, that he wanted to start a family with her, and I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe my son had found happiness. A year after the marriage, Ashley got pregnant. Matthew was euphoric. He called me every day to tell me how the baby was growing. They bought a new house. They painted the little girl's room soft pink. Matthew himself put together the crib. I remember seeing him so happy, so full of hope. And when Isabella was born, I felt like life had given me a gift, a second chance to love, to care. My granddaughter was beautiful, small, delicate, with Matthew's dark eyes. I knitted that mint green blanket with my own hands. It took me weeks to finish it. Every stitch was a piece of my love for her. Matthew adored it. He used to say it was magical, that every time he wrapped Isabella in it, the child would stop crying. He kept that blanket like a treasure. But after the accident, everything changed. Ashley became distant. At first, I understood she was grieving too. She had lost her husband too. She needed time space. But the months passed and she brought Isabella to see me less and less. She always had excuses that the child was sick, that she had too much work, that she needed to reorganize her life. I didn't want to pressure her. I didn't want to be that nosy mother-in-law. So I waited. I called. I asked if I could visit my granddaughter. Sometimes she would say yes. Other times, she just wouldn't answer. And when she did let me see Isabella, I noticed something strange. Ashley was different, colder, more distant. Her gaze no longer had that feigned warmth from before. There was something calculating in her eyes, something that made me nervous. But I thought it was grief that Matthew's death had changed her like it had changed me. I tried to be understanding. I tried to give her space. Until that October afternoon, 3 years after Matthew's death, I had bought some toys for Isabella. I wanted to surprise her. I drove past Ashley's house to leave them in the mailbox. I didn't want to bother her. I just wanted my granddaughter to know that her grandmother was thinking of her. I parked my car across the street and then I saw her. Ashley was coming out of the garage with trash bags, several black bags. She was forcefully dragging them toward the dumpster. And in one of those bags, I saw something that made my heart stop. Isabella's blanket. That mint green blanket that I had knitted with so much love. It was crumpled, half hanging out of the bag. Ashley shoved it inside the dumpster with a strange violence, as if she hated that blanket, as if she wanted to destroy it. I froze. Why was she throwing away something so special? Why was she getting rid of a memory of Matthew? I didn't understand. Ashley closed the dumpster lid and went back into the house. I waited a few minutes. My breathing was ragged. I felt a mixture of rage and sadness. When I was sure she wouldn't come out, I got out of the car. I walked toward the dumpster. I opened it. I searched through the bags until I found it. And there it was, dirty, wrinkled, smelling of expensive perfume and neglect. I carefully took it out. I held it against my chest and I drove it home without looking back. I arrived home shaking. I locked the door. I went straight to my bedroom. I needed to be alone with that blanket. I needed to understand why Ashley had thrown it away like that, as if it were worthless trash. I spread it out on my bed carefully. I smoothed it with my hands. It was dirty but intact. The lace edges were still firm. The mint green color looked dull under the lamplight. I ran my fingers over the entire surface. I felt every texture, every stitch I had made years ago. And then I felt it right in the center of the blanket. A hard lump, rectangular, hidden between the layers of fabric. It wasn't part of the stuffing. It was something else, something someone had put there on purpose. My heart started beating faster. My hands started sweating. What was this? Why was something hidden inside my granddaughter's blanket? I flipped the blanket over. I looked for an opening, a different seam, and I found it. On the bottom edge, almost invisible, there was a line of perfect stitches made with thread, the same color as the fabric. Someone had opened this blanket, put something inside, and sewn it back up so carefully that it was almost impossible to notice. I went to my nightstand. I took out my sewing scissors, the same ones I had used to knit that blanket years ago. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold them. I took a deep breath. I found the start of the seam, and I began to cut slowly. Thread by thread, every snip of the scissors sounded too loud in the silence of my room. I felt like I was opening something forbidden, something I shouldn't touch. But I couldn't stop now. I cut the last threads. The opening was exposed. I put my fingers inside. I felt something cold metallic. I took it out carefully, and when I had it in my hands, the air escaped my lungs. It was a cell phone, small, black, turned off old, based on the model maybe 4 or 5 years old. I held it as if it were a bomb about to explode. Questions flooded my mind like an overflowing river. Why had Ashley hidden a phone in Isabella's blanket? How long had it been there? Why had she sewn it so carefully? And why now, after 3 years, had she decided to throw the whole thing away? I searched in my dresser drawer. I had an old charger I kept just in case. I plugged it into the wall. I plugged in the phone, and I waited. The seconds felt like hours. My breathing was shallow. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The screen flickered. A faint light appeared in the corner. It was charging. I kept waiting. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and set, until finally the screen lit up completely. It didn't have a password, no security code. It opened right to the main menu as if someone had wanted it to be easy to access, or as if they had never imagined anyone else would find it. My fingers trembled on the screen. There were several apps messages, gallery contacts, notes. I started with the gallery. I touched the icon and what I saw froze me. There were pictures, lots of pictures. The first one was of Ashley. She was in an elegant restaurant. She was smiling. But she wasn't alone. There was a man next to her, young, handsome. He had his arm around her shoulders. He was kissing her on the cheek. That photo had a date. It had been taken 4 years ago when Matthew was still alive, when Ashley was still married to my son. I felt something break inside me. I kept swiping more photos. Ashley with the same man on the beach, in a hotel, in a car, hugging, kissing. All the photos were from 4 years ago. Ashley was having an affair. She was cheating on Matthew, and he never knew. He never suspected anything. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. My son had loved that woman. He had trusted her, and she had betrayed him. But that wasn't all. I kept checking. There were videos, several video files saved in a separate folder. I touched the first one. The screen went black and then the image appeared. It was a home recording. The camera was fixed as if resting on a piece of furniture. I could see a living room, Ashley and Matthew's living room. I recognized the gray sofa, the coffee table, the painting on the wall. And then they appeared, Ashley and that same man. They came in laughing. She was wearing a lavender dress. He held her waist. He kissed her. They fell onto the sofa. The scene was clear. Too clear. I stopped the video. I couldn't keep watching. I felt sick. But I needed to know more. I needed to understand what was going on. I opened the Messages app. There were long conversations between Ashley and a contact saved only as H. I started reading. The messages were from 4 years ago. At first, they were romantic. Ashley told him how much she loved him, how much she missed him, that she couldn't stand being away from him, that she hated having to pretend with Matthew. That name, Matthew, my son. She spoke of him as if he were a nuisance, as if he were an obstacle in her way. The messages continued. They became darker, more desperate. Ashley wrote to that man that she wanted to be with him, that she wanted a life together, but that Matthew wouldn't agree to a divorce, that he was too traditional, that he would never let her go. And then a message appeared that broke my soul. There has to be another way. I can't keep going like this. I need him to disappear. My hands dropped the phone. It fell onto the bed. My breathing stopped. I read that message over and over. I need him to disappear. It couldn't be true. I couldn't be reading what I thought I was reading. I picked up the phone again. I kept scrolling down the conversation. The man Shay replied, "Don't say crazy things, just wait, we'll find a way." But Ashley insisted. Message after message growing more desperate. I don't want to wait anymore. I want to be with you now. Matthew is the problem. If he weren't here, we'd be free. And then a few days later, another message. This one even more chilling. I talked to someone who can help us. I just need you to trust me. The man replied, worried. What did you do? Who did you talk to? But Ashley gave no details. She just said that soon everything would be resolved, that soon they would be free, that soon they could be together without hiding. The messages ended abruptly a week before Matthew's death. There were no more conversations after that date, as if they had both stopped using that phone, as if they had wanted to erase any trace. I got up from the bed. I walked around the room trying to process what I had just discovered. Ashley had planned something. She had talked about making Matthew disappear. And a week later, my son was dead. Had it really been an accident, or had it been something else? The doctor's words echoed in my mind. Severe head trauma. Fall down the stairs. But now everything took on a different meaning. A horrible meaning. I picked up the phone again. I checked the notes. There was a single entry. Written 2 days before Matthew's death. It said, Tuesday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He will be alone. Everything has to look natural. An accident. No one can suspect. My legs gave out. I sat down on the bed. Tears ran uncontrollably down my face. My son hadn't died in an accident. My son had been murdered. And Ashley, the woman he had trusted, the mother of his daughter, had been part of it all. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed, the phone in my hands. Reading and rereading those messages, every word was a stab. Every sentence confirmed what my heart already knew, but my mind refused to accept. Matthew hadn't died in an accident. My son had been murdered, and the woman who swore to love him until death had planned everything. She had orchestrated his death as if it were something as simple as moving house or changing jobs. The tears had stopped. Only a deep emptiness remained in my chest, a black hole that swallowed everything. My memories of Ashley, the image I had of her. Everything had crumbled in a matter of hours. When the sun began to rise, I made a decision. I couldn't stay silent. I couldn't let Ashley continue to be free, walking around the world as if she hadn't done anything, raising Isabella with those blood-stained hands, the same hands that had planned to kill my son. But I needed help. I needed someone I could trust, someone who wouldn't think I was crazy, someone who would believe me. I thought about the police, but how could I show up with a phone I had taken out of the trash? How could I explain that I found it sewn into a blanket? I needed more than that. I needed to understand the whole story. I needed to know who that man was, that H that appeared in the messages, and I needed to know if they had actually gone through with their plan. I decided to call Gloria, my lifelong neighbor, a 65-year-old woman who had been my confidant since my husband died. She knew how to listen. She knew how to keep secrets. And above all, she knew me well enough to know that I wouldn't make up something like this. I dialed her number. She answered on the third ring. Her voice sounded sleepy. "Hello, Nina, are you okay?" "It's 6 o'clock in the morning." I took a deep breath. "Gloria, I need you to come to my house now. It's urgent." There was a silence. Then I heard movement. "I'll be right there." She hung up. 15 minutes later, Gloria was knocking on my door. I opened it. She looked at me with concern. Her hair was pulled back in a quick ponytail. She was wearing a mustard-colored sweater over her pajamas. "What happened?" "You look terrible." I stepped aside to let her in. I closed the door. I took her to my bedroom. I showed her the blanket spread out on the bed. The phone was still connected to the charger, and I started telling her everything. I told her how I saw Ashley throwing the blanket away, how I rescued it, how I found the hidden phone, and what I had discovered in it. Gloria listened in silence. Her face went from surprise to horror. When I finished talking, she picked up the phone. She checked the photos, the videos, the messages, the note, everything. Her hands were shaking too. When she looked up at me, there were tears in her eyes. "My God, Elena, this is evidence of murder." I nodded. "I know, but I can't just go to the police. I need more proof. I need to know who that man is. I need to understand everything before I take the next step." Gloria sat on the bed. She thought for a moment. "What if we look on Ashley's social media? Maybe that man appears in her contacts. It was a good idea." I took out my laptop. I opened Facebook. I searched for Ashley's profile. It wasn't locked. I could see everything, her photos, her posts, her friends. I started reviewing her contacts list. There were hundreds of names, too many to check one by one. Gloria leaned over my shoulder. "Look for men whose name starts with H." That was the contact in the phone, right? I nodded. I filtered the search. Several names appeared. Henry Harold Hugh Horace Herbert. I started opening each profile. I was looking for the face of the man in the photos. The one who was with Ashley in those compromising images. I checked Henry. It wasn't him. Harold wasn't either. Horace was too old. Herbert didn't match. And then I opened Hugh's profile. Hugh Miller. And there he was. The same face. The same dark eyes, the same smile. It was him, the man in the photos, the man with whom Ashley had planned to get rid of my son. "It's him," I whispered. Gloria looked at the screen. "Are you sure?" I went back to the phone. I compared the photos. There was no doubt it was the same man. I went back to his Facebook profile. I started investigating. Hugh Miller, 38 years old. He lived in the same city as us. He worked for a construction company. I checked his public photos. There were several from years ago. In some, he was alone, in others with friends. But there were no recent photos with Ashley, as if they had erased all trace of their relationship, as if they had never been together. "We have to find him," I said. Gloria nodded. "But be careful, Elena. If this man was involved in Matthew's death, he could be dangerous. I knew it, but I didn't care. I needed answers. I needed justice for my son." I searched for more information about Hugh online. I found his LinkedIn profile. He worked as a construction supervisor. He had contacts with several companies in the area. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He was a normal man with a normal life, except that he had helped plan a murder. Gloria suggested something I hadn't considered. What if we go to Ashley's house? Maybe we can find more evidence documents, email something that connects everything. It was risky, but it made sense. If Ashley had hidden that phone in Isabella's blanket, maybe she had more things hidden. "We can't just walk in like that," I said. "We need an excuse." Gloria thought for a moment. "What if you tell her you want to see Isabella, that you miss your granddaughter while you distract her? I can discreetly look around." It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was all we had. We decided to try it that same afternoon. I sent Ashley a message. "Hi, Ashley. I know I've been persistent lately, but I really miss Isabella. Can I stop by to see her this afternoon?" Just for a little while, 20 minutes passed before she replied. "Hi, Elena. Today is not a good day. Isabella is a little cranky. Maybe another day." I gritted my teeth. It was always the same. She always had excuses, but this time I wasn't going to take no for an answer. "Please, Ashley, it will only be a few minutes. I bought her a present. I want to give it to her in person." Another silence, then her reply. "Fine, but only 30 minutes. I have things to do." It was all I needed. Gloria and I got ready. She would stay in the car at first. She would wait for my signal. If I managed to distract Ashley long enough, Gloria would come in with some excuse. We would look for anything that could serve as additional evidence. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we arrived at Ashley's house. It was a 2-story house, white paint, well-kept garden. The same house where Matthew had died, where he had supposedly fallen down the stairs where his life had ended. I rang the doorbell. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would jump out of my chest. I heard footsteps. The door opened, and there was Ashley. She was wearing black pants and a salmon-colored blouse. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup impeccable as always. "Hi, Elena," she said with a cold smile. "Come in." I went into the house. The smell of lavender filled the air. Everything was clean, tidy, perfect, too perfect, as if nothing bad had ever happened within those walls. "Where is Isabella?" I asked. "Upstairs in her room. I'll call her." Ashley went up the stairs, the same stairs where Matthew had supposedly fallen. I looked at every step. I looked for some sign, some mark, but there was nothing. Ashley came down with Isabella in her arms. My granddaughter had grown so much. She was 3 years old now. Her dark hair fell in soft curls over her shoulders. Her eyes were identical to Matthew's. Seeing her broke my heart and filled me with love at the same time. "Hi, Grandma," Isabella said in her sweet little voice. She extended her little arms toward me. I took her. I hugged her tight. She smelled like baby shampoo and innocence. She was the only pure thing left of my son, the only good thing that had survived all this darkness. "I missed you so much, my love," I whispered to her. She smiled. She showed me a doll she had in her hand, a little brown bear. She started telling me a story about him. I listened to her while watching Ashley out of the corner of my eye. Ashley was standing by the window looking at her phone. She seemed distracted, nervous, as if she was waiting for something or someone. I took advantage of the moment. I took out my cell phone. I sent a quick message to Gloria. "Come in now." A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. Ashley looked up surprised. "Are you expecting someone?" I asked her with the most casual voice I could manage. She shook her head. She frowned. She went to the door. She opened it. Gloria was there with a kind smile. "Hello. Excuse the interruption. I'm Gloria, Elena's neighbor. I came with her, but I forgot a bag in the car. Can I come in and use the restroom? It's urgent." Ashley hesitated. She looked at Gloria. Then she looked at me. I nodded as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "Sure," Ashley finally said down the hall, first door on the left. Gloria walked in. She gave me a quick look. I understood the message. She would look for what she could while I kept Ashley distracted. I needed time. I started talking. I asked Ashley about work, about how she was handling things, about whether she needed help with Isabella. Ashley answered with short phrases. "Kurt." She kept looking at her phone. She was restless. I kept talking. I told her that I had found some old pictures of Matthew, that I would like to show them to Isabella when she was older, so she could get to know her dad. When I mentioned Matthew, Ashley tensed up. "Yes, of course, when she is older." Her voice sounded different, harsher. She looked towards the hallway. "Your friend is taking a long time. Maybe she doesn't feel well." I improvised. "You know, at our age, everything takes longer." Ashley didn't look convinced. She got up. "I'm going to check on her." My heart sped up. I needed to stop her. "Wait, Ashley, there is something I want to ask you." She stopped. She looked at me. "What is it?" I took a deep breath. "I needed to make this believable. Isabella's blanket, the one I knitted for her. I haven't seen it lately. Are you still using it?" Her face changed. For a second, I saw panic in her eyes. Then she composed herself. "The blanket." "Yes, of course it is. It is in the washing machine. It got dirty." She was lying. I knew she was lying, but I couldn't tell her. "Not yet." "Oh, that's good. I'm glad you still have it." Matthew loved it so much. I mentioned my son again on purpose. I wanted to see her reaction. Ashley pressed her lips together. "Yes, Matthew loved a lot of things." There was something in her tone. Something bitter, something resentful. Before I could reply, Gloria appeared in the hallway. "Sorry for the delay, I feel better now." Ashley looked at her suspiciously. "That's great." Gloria walked toward me. She gently touched my shoulder. It was the signal. She had found something. We needed to leave. "Well, Ashley, we won't bother you anymore. Thank you for letting us see Isabella." I stood up. I kissed my granddaughter's forehead. I love you, little one. Grandma will be back soon. Isabella hugged me. Bye, Grandma. Ashley escorted us to the door. When we left, she closed it quickly, almost violently. Gloria and I walked to the car in silence. We got in. I closed the door. What did you find? Gloria reached into her purse. She pulled out a manila envelope. It was in her bedroom in the closet, hidden under some boxes. I opened the envelope. Inside were documents papers for Matthew's life insurance. My son had a policy for $500,000, and the beneficiary was Ashley. The entire amount had been collected 3 months after his death. There were also bank statements, large transfers, one for $200,000 to an account in the name of Hugh Miller. My God, I whispered. She paid him. She paid him to help her kill Matthew. Gloria nodded. There's more. She took out another paper. It was a copy of a birth certificate, Isabella's. But there was something strange. The mother's name was not Ashley. It said Lydia Torres. Who is Lydia Torres? I asked. Gloria shook her head. I don't know, but according to this document, she is Isabella's biological mother, not Ashley. The world stopped. I didn't understand anything. Isabella wasn't Ashley's daughter, but Ashley was pregnant. I saw her. We all saw her. Gloria pointed to the date on the certificate. Look at Isabella's date of birth. It doesn't match what Ashley told us. There is a difference of 2 months. I checked the certificate. Gloria was right. According to that document, Isabella had been born months before Ashley had announced. This doesn't make sense. Did Ashley fake a pregnancy? Did she steal a baby? I don't know, Gloria said. But we need to find Lydia Torres. She is the key to all this. I went back home with Gloria. We sat in the living room. We spread all the documents over the table. The phone, the photos, the messages, the insurance papers, the birth certificate. Everything started to make sense. Ashley had planned Matthew's murder to get the insurance money. She had used Hugh to do it. She had paid him with part of the money. But there was also another story. The story of Lydia Torres and Isabella. We need to search for information about Lydia, I said. I opened my laptop. I searched her name online. Lydia Torres. Several profiles appeared, but none seemed to match. I added the city to the search, and then I found something. A local newspaper article from 4 years ago. The headline read, Young Mother Missing. Family asks for help locating Lydia Torres. There was a photo, a 23-year-old girl, long hair, sad eyes. According to the article, she had disappeared, leaving behind her 2-month-old baby. Isabella, I whispered. Lydia disappeared and left Isabella. Gloria read the article over my shoulder. Or maybe she didn't leave her. Maybe Ashley made her disappear. The idea chilled my blood. Do you think Ashley killed Lydia too? I don't know. But think about it. Ashley needed a baby to complete her perfect family facade with Matthew. Maybe she met Lydia. Maybe she took advantage of her, and when she no longer needed her, she got rid of her. It was a horrible theory, but it made sense. I searched for more information about Lydia's disappearance. I found another article more recent from 6 months ago. Remains of missing young woman found, identified as Lydia Torres. They had found her body in an abandoned lot outside the city. The investigation was closed. Cause of death, head trauma, the same cause as Matthew. It couldn't be a coincidence. Ashley killed her? I said with a trembling voice. She killed Lydia to keep Isabella, and then she killed Matthew to keep the money. Gloria took my hand. Lela, Nina, this is too big. We need to go to the police now. She was right. We couldn't keep investigating alone. This was evidence of 2 murders, maybe more. We needed professional help. I picked up my phone. I looked up the number for the local precinct. I dialed. A masculine voice answered. Central Precinct. How can I help you? I took a deep breath. I need to report a murder. 2 murders and I have evidence. They gave me an appointment for the next day. A detective named Jack Roberts would take the case. They asked me to bring all the evidence I had. I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned in bed thinking about everything I had discovered. About Ashley's lies about my son's death, about Lydia Torres, about Isabella. My granddaughter wasn't really my blood granddaughter. But that didn't matter. She was Matthew's daughter in his heart. He had loved her as his own. He had cared for her. And now that child was in the hands of a murderer, in the hands of the woman who had killed her real mother and her adoptive father. I couldn't allow Ashley to continue with her. I had to get Isabella out of that house, I had to protect her. But first, I needed the police to believe my story. I needed them to investigate to arrest Ashley to seek justice. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Gloria and I arrived at the precinct. It was a gray building, cold. It smelled like old coffee and paper. A receptionist greeted us. We told her we had an appointment with Detective Roberts. She made us wait in a small room. 15 minutes later, a man about 45 years old appeared. Tall, short hair with graying temples, penetrating eyes. He was wearing a beige shirt and dark pants. Mrs. Elelenina. I nodded. I'm Detective Jack Roberts. Come in, please. He led us to his office, a room full of filing cabinets and folders. There were photos on the walls. Solved cases, I suppose. We sat down across from his desk. He settled into his chair. He took out a notepad. Tell me everything from the beginning. I took a deep breath and I started talking. I told him about Matthew's death, about how Ashley had said it was an accident, about the blanket I saw in the trash, about the hidden phone, the photos, the messages, the videos, the note about the plan. I showed him everything. The phone, the insurance documents, the bank transfers, to Hugh Miller, Isabella's birth certificate with Lydia Torres's name, the articles about Lydia's disappearance and the discovery of her body. Detective Roberts listened in silence. He took notes. He reviewed each document carefully. He looked at the photos on the phone. He read the messages. His expression was serious, concentrated. When I finished speaking, he leaned back in his chair. This is serious, he finally said. Very serious. If what you are telling me is true, we are talking about 2 premeditated homicides, possibly 3 if we count the girl's biological father. I was stunned. The biological father. If Isabella wasn't Ashley's daughter, she had to have a father. Someone who was with Lydia Torres. Do you know anything about him? I shook my head. I didn't find anything about that. The detective wrote something down. I'll investigate. But first, I need to verify this evidence. What are you going to do? I asked. I'm going to reopen the case of your son's death. I'm going to request an exhumation for a second autopsy, and I'm going to thoroughly investigate the death of Lydia Torres. I'm also going to interrogate Hugh Miller. I felt an enormous relief. Finally, someone believed me. Someone was going to do something. And Ashley. Are you going to arrest her? The detective shook his head. Not yet. I need more evidence before issuing an arrest warrant. I don't want her to escape if she suspects we're investigating her. It made sense, but it frustrated me. And in the meantime, Isabella is still with her. The detective looked at me with compassion. I understand your concern, but legally, Ashley is the girl's guardian. I can't take her away without a court order, and for that, I need solid proof. Isn't the phone enough? The detective sighed. It is important evidence, but a good lawyer could argue that it was planted, that we don't know for sure where it came from. I need more. I need testimonies, forensic evidence, clear connections. I felt helpless. How long will all this take? Gloria asked. The detective shrugged. It depends. If I find what I'm looking for, maybe a couple of weeks. If not, it could take months. I didn't have months. I couldn't leave Isabella with Ashley that long. There's something else, I said. Ashley was nervous yesterday. She was constantly looking at her phone as if she was waiting for something or planning something. The detective wrote that down too. Do you have any idea what it could be? I shook my head. No, but it gave me a bad feeling. All right, I'm going to put discreet surveillance on her house. If she tries anything, we'll know. That calmed me down a little. At least they would be watching her. At least they would know if she tried to run away or hurt Isabella. We said goodbye to the detective. He gave us his personal number. Call me if you notice anything strange. Anything, no matter what time it is. I nodded. Gloria and I left the precinct. The sun was high. It was hot, but I felt cold inside. What do we do now? Gloria asked. Wait, I said bitterly. Wait and pray that they find enough to arrest her. The following days were torture. Every hour seemed endless. I couldn't stop thinking about Isabella, about whether she was okay, about whether Ashley suspected anything, about whether she would try to escape. Detective Roberts called me every couple of days to give me updates. He had interrogated Hugh Miller. At first, he denied everything. He said he barely knew Ashley, that they were just work acquaintances. But when they showed him the photos and messages from the phone, he broke down. He confessed to the affair. He admitted that Ashley had talked to him about getting rid of Matthew, but he swore he never agreed. that he told her she was crazy, that he didn't want to be part of it. However, the bank transfers said otherwise. The detective pressured him. He showed him the statements, the $200,000 that Ashley had sent him 3 months after Matthew's death. Hugh couldn't explain it. He said it was a loan that Ashley had given it to him to start a business, but he didn't have any documents to prove it. "I'm holding him for 24 hours, the detective told me. "I hope he confesses. If not, I'll have to release him." "I don't have enough to keep him detained." That night, Hugh asked for a lawyer and stopped talking. The detective had to release him, but the investigation continued. They exhumed Matthew's body. The second autopsy revealed something the first one had missed. There were signs of a struggle on his wrists, bruises that indicated someone had restrained him. It hadn't been an accidental fall. It was murder. The detective confirmed. "Your son was restrained and pushed down those stairs." Tears rolled down my cheeks knowing the truth was painful, but it was also necessary. Matthew deserved justice. They also investigated Lydia Torres's death more thoroughly. They found that the land where her body was found belonged to a company where Hugh Miller had worked as a supervisor. The connection was clear. Hugh had had access to that location. He could have taken the body there, buried it without anyone suspecting. Furthermore, they checked Isabella's adoption records. There were none. Legally, Isabella was still registered as the biological daughter of Ashley and Matthew, but the original birth certificate said otherwise. Someone had falsified documents. Someone had erased Lydia's trace. "We are building the case," the detective told me. "Little by little, every piece fits. Soon we will have enough to arrest her." 1 more week passed, a week of anguish, of fear, of sleepless nights. And then one early morning my phone rang. It was Detective Roberts. His voice sounded urgent. "Mrs. Alalanina, I need you to come to the precinct now. It's about Ashley." My heart stopped. What happened? There was a silence. She tried to flee. We intercepted her at the airport. She had tickets for herself and for Isabella. They were going to leave the country. I got dressed in 5 minutes. Gloria came with me. We arrived at the precinct. The detective was waiting for us. He took us to an observation room. Through a glass window, I saw Ashley. She was sitting in a chair, handcuffed. Her makeup was smeared. Her hair was messy. "We arrested her 2 hours ago," the detective explained. "When she tried to go through airport security, our alert system was activated. She had fake passports for herself and the girl and $500,000 in cash divided into several suitcases." "Where is Isabella?" I asked desperately. "She's with social services. She's fine. Scared but fine." "They are going to need you to go and identify yourself as her grandmother to see if she can stay with you temporarily while we resolve all this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Isabella was safe away from Ashley, and I could have her with me, protect her as I should have done from the beginning. "I want to see her now." The detective nodded. "Of course, but first I need you to see this." He showed me a recording of the interrogation room. Ashley was sitting across from another detective. Her arms were crossed. Her jaw was tense. "I have nothing to say. I want a lawyer." The detective interrogating her didn't flinch. "He's on his way." "But in the meantime, why don't you explain to me why you were trying to flee the country with $500,000 in cash?" Ashley didn't answer. She just looked at the table. The detective continued. "We have evidence, Ashley. Messages, photos, bank transfers. We know about Hugh. We know about Lydia. We know about Matthew. Everything." Hearing Matthew's name, Ashley looked up. There was something in her eyes. Something dark. "You don't know anything," she said in a cold voice. "You can't prove anything." The detective smiled. It was a humorless smile. "Oh no, we have the phone you hid in Isabella's blanket. The same one you threw in the trash thinking no one would find it. We have the messages where you plan to murder your husband. We have the transfers to Hugh Miller." Ashley turned pale. "That phone. How?" She stopped. She realized she had said too much. The detective leaned forward. "Your mother-in-law found it. Elelanina. The woman from whom you snatched her son. The woman who is now going to keep Isabella while you rot in prison." Ashley's expression changed from panic to fury. That meddling old woman. I knew I shouldn't have let her near the girl. I knew she was snooping. That's why I wanted to leave. That's why I needed to disappear before it was too late. Disappear. How did you make Lydia Torres disappear? The name dropped like a bomb. Ashley fell silent. Her breathing sped up. I don't know who you're talking about. The detective took out a photo. He put it on the table. It was Lydia, young, smiling, alive. Lydia Torres, Isabella's real mother. The girl who disappeared 4 years ago. The same one we found dead in a lot that belongs to the company where your accomplice Hugh worked. Ashley closed her eyes. I want a lawyer. I'm not going to say anything else. The detective leaned back. Suit yourself, but this is not going to disappear. We have enough to convict you for double homicide, for fraud, for falsification of documents. You are going to spend the rest of your life in prison. The recording ended. Detective Roberts looked at me. She still won't confess, but she will. The evidence is overwhelming. What's going to happen to Hugh? I asked. We've arrested him too. He's in another room and he is talking. He's blaming Ashley for everything. He says she manipulated him, that he was just following orders, that he was afraid of her. I wasn't surprised. Cowards always look out for themselves. Tell me what else Hugh said. The detective opened his notepad. According to Hugh, Ashley contacted him 4 years ago. They were having an affair. She told him she was tired of her marriage, that Matthew was boring, controlling, that she wanted a different life. She proposed the plan. Wait until Matthew was alone at home. Push him down the stairs. Make it look like an accident. In exchange, they would share the life insurance money. My stomach churned. Hearing how they had planned my son's death was unbearable. Hugh says that at first he refused, but Ashley convinced him. She showed him the insurance papers, $500,000. She promised him $200,000 for himself and a life together after everything was over. Gloria, who had been silent, spoke. What about Lydia? What did Hugh say about her? The detective turned a page. That's where the story gets darker. According to Hugh, Ashley met Lydia at the hospital where she worked. Lydia was a patient. She had come in for pregnancy complications. She was alone. No family, no resources. Ashley saw an opportunity. She befriended Lydia. She offered her help. She told her she could stay at her house after the baby was born. Lydia accepted. She had no one else. My hands were shaking. Ashley planned everything from the beginning. She wanted to keep the baby. The detective nodded. Exactly. According to Hugh, Ashley lied to Matthew. She told him she was pregnant. She wore loose clothing. She faked symptoms. Matthew never suspected. When Lydia gave birth, Ashley took the baby. She told Matthew that she had given birth at home, that everything had happened very quickly. And Lydia? What happened to her? My voice was trembling. The detective took a deep breath. Hugh says Ashley gave her something, a drug. So Lydia couldn't resist. She took her to the lot where they later found her body and she killed her. Same method as with Matthew. Head trauma. Tears ran down my face. Ashley wasn't just a murderer. She was a monster. She had killed a defenseless girl. She had stolen her baby. And then she had killed my son to keep his money. And Isabella's father, the real father. According to the records we found, Lydia never registered the father. Either she didn't know him or she didn't want to involve him. We are investigating. But for now, there is no trace of him. I wiped my tears. I want to see Isabella, please. The detective led me to another wing of the building. There was a waiting room with toys. A social worker was there, and in a corner playing with colored blocks was my granddaughter. Isabella, I whispered. She looked up. She saw me, and she ran toward me. Grandma! I picked her up. I squeezed her against my chest. She clung to me. She was scared, confused, but she was safe. I'm here, my love. Everything is going to be all right. The social worker approached. Mrs. Elelenina, I'm Mary. I work with Child Protective Services. Detective Roberts explained the situation to me. We are going to need to do an evaluation before letting Isabella go with you, but everything indicates that it is what's best for the child. I will do whatever is necessary, I said. I just want to take care of her, protect her. Mary smiled warmly. I know and I see that she loves you. That is important. I spent the next few hours with Isabella. We talked. I told her she would be staying with me for a while. I didn't tell her about Ashley. Not yet. She was too small to understand. I would explain everything to her later. When she was older, when she could process the truth for now, she just needed to feel loved and safe. Mary did the evaluations. She checked my house. She talked to me about my ability to care for a 3-year-old child. She asked questions about my health, my finances, my support network. Gloria was there the whole time as a witness as support. At the end of the day, Mary gave her approval. Isabella can stay with you temporarily. There will be follow-up visits and eventually a hearing to determine permanent custody. But for now, you are her legal guardian. I signed all the necessary papers. I took Isabella's hand and we left that building. Gloria drove us home in her car. The whole way, Isabella slept in my lap. Her breathing was soft, tranquil. When we arrived at my house, I took her to my bedroom. I put her down on my bed. I covered her with a soft blanket. I sat down next to her. I watched her sleep. She looked so much like Matthew. Those same eyes, that same nose. Although she didn't share his blood, she was his daughter in everything that mattered. "I promise I will protect you," I whispered to her. "No one will ever hurt you again. Your dad would have wanted you to be safe, and I will make sure that is the case." Gloria came into the room. She put a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, Elena. You saved that child." I shook my head. "No, I just did what any grandmother would do, what I should have done from the beginning." Gloria sat down next to me. "Don't blame yourself. You couldn't have known what Ashley was capable of." Maybe she was right. But the guilt still gnawed at me. If I had been more attentive, if I had questioned more things, if I hadn't trusted so much, maybe Matthew would still be alive. Maybe Lydia too. "What's going to happen now?" Gloria asked. "Detective Roberts is going to keep building the case. There will be trials, testimonies. It's going to be a long process, but Ashley is going to pay for what she did, and Hugh too." Gloria nodded. "Good. They deserve it." The following months were a whirlwind. The case of Ashley and Hugh became a media sensation. Newspapers talked about the killer nurse, the woman who had killed her husband, and the biological mother of her daughter for money. Cameras camped outside the precinct whenever there was a hearing. I tried to keep Isabella away from all of it. I enrolled her in preschool. I bought her new clothes toys. I fixed up a room for her in my house. I painted the walls a soft yellow. I filled the room with stuffed animals and books. I wanted her to feel at home, to forget the horror she had lived through. But the nights were difficult. Isabella had nightmares. She would wake up crying, calling for her mom. And I didn't know what to tell her. I couldn't tell her that her mom was in prison, that her mom had killed her dad, that her mom wasn't really her mom. I just hugged her. I sang her songs. I told her she was safe, that I would always take care of her. Little by little, the nightmares became less frequent. Isabella started smiling more, playing being a normal child. That gave me hope. Detective Roberts kept me informed about the case. Hugh had accepted a plea deal with the prosecution. He would testify against Ashley in exchange for a reduced sentence, 25 years instead of life in prison. It angered me that he received leniency, but I understood that his testimony was crucial. Ashley, on the other hand, refused to plead guilty. Her lawyer argued that all the evidence was circumstantial, that there was no direct proof that she had committed the murders, that Hugh was lying to save his own skin. But the prosecution had a solid case. The phone with the messages, the photos, the videos, the bank transfers, Hugh's testimony, the forensic evidence from Matthew's second autopsy. Everything pointed to Ashley. The trial was scheduled for 3 months later. One afternoon, while Isabella was taking her nap, I received an unexpected call. It was Detective Roberts. "Mrs. Elelenina, I need you to come to the precinct. There is something you need to see." His voice sounded serious. More serious than usual. "What happened?" I asked with a racing heart. "I prefer to explain it to you in person." "Can you come this afternoon?" I accepted. I asked Gloria to watch Isabella and I went to the precinct. The detective was waiting for me in his office. He had a folder on his desk. "Please sit down." I sat down. He opened the folder. He took out some photos. They were images of crime scenes. One was of the lot where they found Lydia. Another was of the stairs where Matthew died. "Remember I told you we were investigating Isabella's biological father?" I nodded. "Yes." "You said there was no record." The detective nodded. "Correct. Lydia never put the father's name on the birth certificate, but we kept investigating. We talked to Lydia's former co-workers, friends, neighbors, and we found something interesting. Several witnesses mentioned that Lydia was dating someone, a man who worked at the hospital, the same hospital where Matthew and Ashley worked." My stomach tightened. "Who was he?" The detective took out another photo. It was a hospital ID badge. A man about 30 years old, dark hair, light eyes. And then I saw it. The resemblance. It was unsettling. That man, the detective said, was named Adrian Wells. He was a lab technician, and according to several testimonies, he and Lydia had a relationship. "Where is he now?" I asked. The detective looked down. "He died 3.5 years ago, 6 months after Lydia's disappearance." I felt a chill. "How did he die?" The detective looked at me directly. "Car accident. He lost control of his car on a highway, fell down a ravine, died instantly." "Another accident," I whispered. The detective nodded. "Exactly. And guess who reported the accident? Who was the first to arrive at the scene? I didn't need him to tell me. I already knew. Ashley." The detective put another photo on the table. Ashley was on duty that night. She said she was on her way home when she saw Adrian's car go off the road. She called emergency services, but when they arrived, Adrian was already dead. "We believe she killed him too." The detective took a deep breath. "We have no proof. The case was closed as an accident. But now with everything we know, we are reopening the investigation. There are too many coincidences. First, Lydia disappears, then Adrian dies, then Matthew dies, all connected somehow. All dead in circumstances that Ashley could have manipulated. My hands were trembling. How many people did she kill? How many lives did she destroy?" The detective closed the folder. "I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. I'm going to review every case, every suspicious death connected to Ashley in the last 5 years. If there are more victims, we will find them." I left the precinct in a state of shock. Ashley wasn't just a murderer. She was a serial killer, meticulous, calculating. She had eliminated anyone who stood in her way. Lydia because she had the baby Ashley wanted. Adrian because he was the baby's father and could claim her. Matthew because he had the money she needed. I went back home. Gloria was waiting for me in the living room. "What happened?" "You look pale." I told her everything about Adrian, about the possibility of more victims. Gloria put her hands over her mouth. "My God, it's worse than we thought." I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed awake thinking about all of Ashley's victims, about Lydia, about Adrian, about Matthew, about how many other people might have been her victims, about how much pain she had caused, and about how I had been so blind, so close to her for years without seeing who she really was. The next morning, Detective Roberts appeared at my house unannounced. He had more news. We found something else. We checked the medical records at the hospital where Ashley worked. There were 3 suspicious deaths of patients under her care in the last 4 years. All were elderly. All died of cardiac arrest. At the time, nothing was suspected. It was attributed to complications of old age. But now we are exhuming the bodies looking for traces of medication that could have induced the arrests. I felt dizzy. "Are you saying Ashley killed her own patients?" The detective nodded. "It's a possibility. If the analyses confirm that they were poisoned, then we would be talking about at least 6 victims, possibly more. Why would she do it? What did she gain by killing those elderly people?" The detective took out another folder. Money. It was always about money. 2 of those patients modified their wills shortly before they died. They left significant donations to the hospital. Ashley had been very kind to them, very attentive. She gained their trust. And then mysteriously, the money from those donations disappeared. It never reached the hospital. It was diverted to phantom bank accounts. We are tracking those accounts, and all of them have a connection with Ashley or with you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ashley had built a criminal empire. She had killed, stolen, lied, and all with a perfect smile and elegant dresses. No one had suspected. No one until I found that phone. There's something else. The detective said Hugh is cooperating more than expected. He says Ashley has hidden documents, evidence she kept as insurance in case Hugh ever betrayed her. She wanted to have something to threaten him with. "What kind of documents?" The detective leaned forward. "Bank records, contracts, even videos. Hugh says Ashley recorded him helping her with Matthew's murder. That she has those recordings hidden somewhere." "Where?" The detective shook his head. "Hugh says he doesn't know that Ashley never told him, but he thinks they might be in her house in some hiding place only she knows about." My mind worked fast. We need those documents. If they exist, they could seal the case against her. The detective nodded. "We already have a search warrant." "We are going to search the house from top to bottom, every corner, every wall, until we find what we're looking for. That afternoon, a team of police officers entered Ashley's house. I accompanied them. I wanted to be there. I wanted to see them dismantle her perfect life piece by piece. They searched everything. The drawers, the closets, they lifted rugs. They knocked on walls looking for hidden compartments. And after 4 hours, one of the officers yelled from the basement, "I found something!" We ran down. The officer had moved an old bookshelf. Behind it was a safe built into the wall, small, discreet. "We need to open it," the detective said. They brought in a specialist. He opened the safe in 20 minutes, and inside we found a treasure trove of evidence. There were external hard drives, USB drives, folders with documents, printed photos. Everything was meticulously organized, every file labeled, every document in its place. It was Ashley's personal archive, her record of crimes. It's as if she wanted to remember everything the detective said while reviewing the documents, as if she was proud of what she had done. Among the files were videos of Ashley and Hugh planning Matthew's murder, videos of Ashley confessing everything on camera as if she was documenting her crimes for posterity. In one of the videos, Ashley spoke directly to the camera. Her voice was cold, devoid of emotion. "If anyone is watching this, it means I made a mistake, that I got caught. But I want you to know that I don't regret anything. I did what I had to do. I eliminated obstacles. I took what I deserved. Matthew was weak. Lydia was a means to an end. Adrian was a risk. The elderly were opportunities. I feel no remorse. I just did what no one else had the courage to do." The video ended. The detective turned off the screen. With this, her case is closed. She is going to spend the rest of her life in prison. The trial began 2 months later. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, curious onlookers, family members of the victims Ashley had left in her wake. I was in the front row. I wanted to look her in the eyes. I wanted her to know that she hadn't won, that the truth had come to light. Ashley entered in handcuffs. She was wearing a dark gray suit. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup. She looked different, smaller, more real. She was no longer the perfect woman everyone knew. She was just a criminal facing the consequences of her actions. Our eyes met. For a second, I saw something in her eyes. It wasn't regret, it was rage. Rage because she had been caught, because her perfect plan had collapsed. She looked away. She sat down next to her lawyer and the trial began. The prosecutor was a woman in her 40s, firm, direct. She presented the case with precision. She showed the photos, the messages from the phone, the videos from the safe, the forensic testimonies. Every piece of evidence was like a nail in Ashley's coffin. Hugh testified. He entered the courtroom in shackles. He looked broken, gaunt. He started speaking in a trembling voice. He recounted how Ashley had seduced him, how she had proposed the plan, how the two of them had waited until Matthew was alone. "I held his arms," Hugh confessed. Ashley pushed him. "I saw him fall down the stairs. I heard the thud of his head against the floor. And I didn't do anything. I just stood there while she called emergency services, faking panic. Tears ran down my face. Hearing the details of my son's death was heartbreaking, but I needed to hear it. I needed to know exactly what they had done to him." Hugh continued talking. He talked about Lydia, about how Ashley had asked him for help to get rid of her. Ashley gave her something, a drug. Lydia became unconscious. I took her to the lot. Ashley hit her head with a rock. Then we buried her. The whole thing took less than an hour. The courtroom was in complete silence. Only the sound of collective breathing could be heard. People were horrified. Hugh also talked about Adrian. Ashley followed him that night. She waited until he reached the lonely road. She rammed him with her own car. She pushed him off the road. Then she reported the accident as if she had just passed by. No one suspected. Ashley's lawyer tried to discredit Hugh. "You are lying to reduce your sentence. You are blaming my client for everything to save yourself." But Hugh did not retract. "I am not lying. I have to live with this for the rest of my life. The least I can do is tell the truth." Then came the forensic experts. They explained the results of the autopsies, the marks on Matthew's wrists, the type of trauma Lydia suffered, the medications found in the bodies of the elderly patients at the hospital. Everything confirmed Hugh's version. Then, former co-workers testified, patients who had survived, neighbors who had seen strange things. Every testimony added another layer to the story, another proof of Ashley's evil. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Finally, the time for closing arguments arrived. The prosecutor stood before the jury. Ashley is not a person who made a mistake. She is not someone who acted on impulse. She is a predator calculating cold. She killed at least 6 people, maybe more, and she did it without remorse. She destroyed families. She ruined lives. She stole a baby from her real mother. She murdered her own husband, and all for money, for ambition, because she believed she deserved more than she had. She does not deserve compassion. She deserves justice. She deserves to spend the rest of her life paying for what she did. Ashley's lawyer tried to create doubt. The evidence is circumstantial. My client has been the victim of a campaign against her. Hugh Miller is the real culprit. He is using Ashley as a scapegoat. You cannot convict someone based on the words of a confessed criminal, but it didn't work. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the tension in the room was palpable. The judge asked for the verdict. The jury foreman stood up. In the case of the murder of Matthew Stone, we find the defendant guilty. In the case of the murder of Lydia Torres, we find the defendant guilty. In the case of the murder of Adrian Wells, we find the defendant guilty. In the cases of the 3 elderly patients at the hospital, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty on all counts. I looked at Ashley. Her face showed no emotion. She didn't cry, she didn't scream, she just sat there as if none of this mattered to her, as if she had accepted her fate a long time ago. The judge spoke. Ashley Wilson has been found guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder. I sentence her to 6 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in murmurs as I could only close my eyes. It was the end. Ashley would never leave prison. She would never harm anyone again. Justice had been served. But I didn't feel joy, only a deep emptiness, because none of this would bring Matthew back. After the trial, Detective Roberts approached. "Justice," he said simply. I nodded. "Yes, but at what cost?" He put a hand on my shoulder. "You saved Isabella. That's what's important. You gave her a chance to have a normal life. A life without lies." He was right. Isabella was what mattered now. She was my reason for continuing. I went back home. Gloria was waiting for me with Isabella. My granddaughter was playing with her dolls. When she saw me, she ran toward me. "Grandma, where were you? I had something important to do, my love, but I'm done now. Now I'm here with you." I hugged her tight. She smelled like cookies and happiness. She was all I needed. The following days were calmer. The media circus began to fade. People found other stories to tell. I focused on Isabella, on giving her the childhood she deserved. I took her to the park. We read stories before bed. We baked cookies together. Little by little, she started calling me Mom. At first, it surprised me. Then I realized it was natural. I was the only maternal figure she had now. "Is it okay if I call you Mom?" she asked me one night. She was 4 years old already. She was lying in her bed. I was stroking her hair. "Of course, my loves. You can call me whatever makes you feel comfortable." She smiled. "Mom, Grandma." I laughed. "Mom, Grandma." She nodded. "Because you're my grandma, but you're also like my mom." My heart melted. "I like it, Mom. Grandma sounds perfect." I kissed her on the forehead. "Now sleep. Tomorrow we'll go to the zoo." The months passed. They turned into years. Isabella grew up. She started elementary school. She made friends. She learned to read to write. She was a brilliant child, full of life. Sometimes I saw Matthew in her and her gestures and her smile, and that gave me peace. Gloria continued to be my confidant, my support. We had dinner together every week. We talked about everything about Isabella, about life, about how we had survived all that. "You are stronger than you thought," she would tell me. "You saved that child. You gave her a future." One day when Isabella was 7 years old, she asked me a question I feared. "Mom, Grandma, where is my other mom? The one who carried me in her tummy." I took a deep breath. I knew this moment would come. I had prepared what to say. "Your mom was named Lydia. She was a very brave woman. She loved you very much." "Why isn't she here?" Isabella looked at me with those innocent eyes. "Because she had to go to heaven. But before she left, she asked me to take care of you, to give you all the love she couldn't give you." It wasn't entirely a lie. In my heart, I believed Lydia would have wanted me to take care of her daughter and my dad. Another difficult question. Your dad is in heaven too. His name was Matthew. He was my son, and he would have loved you with all his heart. Isabella thought for a moment. Then you are my real grandma from my dad. I nodded. Yes, my love. I am your real grandma. She smiled. I like it because then we are connected by the heart. I hugged her. Exactly. By the heart. I decided not to tell her about Ashley. Not yet. Maybe when she was older, when she could understand. Years later, when Isabella turned 16, I told her the whole truth. She deserved it. We cried together. She asked questions. She processed the information. It was difficult, but in the end, she told me something I will never forget. Thank you for saving me, for giving me a life. You saved me too, I replied. You gave me a reason to keep going after losing your dad. We hugged and I knew that we had healed together, that despite all the pain, all the darkness, we had found light. The blanket that had caused everything was still stored in my closet. I had washed it, repaired it. Sometimes I would take it out. I would look at it. I remembered how a small object had uncovered so many secrets, how it had been the catalyst for discovering the truth. Today, Isabella is 21 years old. She is studying medicine at college. She wants to be a pediatrician. She says she wants to help children like her. Children who have been through difficult situations, who need someone who understands them. I am so proud of the woman she has become. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't seen Ashley throwing that blanket in the trash. If I hadn't rescued it, if I hadn't found the phone, Ashley would still be free. Maybe she would have killed more people. Isabella would be growing up under the care of a murderer. But fate had other plans. That October afternoon, 18 years ago now, something urged me to act. Something bigger than me. Maybe it was Matthew. Maybe it was Lydia guiding me from wherever they were, making sure their daughter was safe. Gloria is still my best friend. She is 83 years old now. I am 87. We meet every afternoon for tea. We talk about old times, about how we survived that nightmare, about how we built a new life after the horror. Do you ever think about her? Gloria asked me one afternoon. I knew who she was referring to. Ashley. Sometimes I admitted. I wonder if she ever felt anything, any remorse, any guilt. Gloria shook her head. People like her don't feel. They just calculate. They just take. She was right. Ashley had never shown regret, not even in prison. According to what Detective Roberts told me years ago, she still insisted that she hadn't done anything wrong, that she had only taken what was due to her, that the world owed her more than it had given her. Hugh, on the other hand, did show remorse. He wrote letters asking for forgiveness to the victims' families to me. I never responded. I couldn't forgive someone who had helped kill my son, but at least he had the decency to admit his guilt, to try to atone for his sins. He died in prison 5 years ago, a heart attack. He was only 53 years old. When I found out, I felt nothing. Neither relief nor sadness, only indifference. It was a closed chapter in a story I preferred to forget. Ashley is still alive, serving her 6 consecutive life sentences in a maximum security prison. Isabella once asked me if I wanted to visit her to see the woman who had killed her father, who had stolen her childhood. I flatly refused. I don't need to see her. I don't need her explanation. All I need is to know that she is where she should be paying for what she did. Isabella respected my decision. She also had no interest in meeting Ashley. For her, that woman was a ghost of the past. Someone who existed only in stories and warnings about what human evil is capable of. Her real family was me. It was Gloria. It was the friends she had made, the people who truly loved her. A few months ago, Isabella brought me something, a gift wrapped in lavender paper. Open it, she told me with a smile. I unwrapped the package carefully. Inside was a blanket, new hand-knitted mint green in color, exactly the same as the one I had made so many years ago. I made it myself, Isabella said. I learned to knit. I wanted to recreate the blanket that united us, the one that saved my life. Tears streamed down my face. I hugged her tight. It's perfect. It's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me. That night, I spread the new blanket on my bed. Next to it, I took the old blanket out of the closet, the one I had kept all these years. I compared them. They were almost identical, but this new one had no hidden secrets. It had no pain sewn into its fibers. It only had love. Pure love from a granddaughter to her grandmother. You know, Isabella told me while we were having dinner. I've been thinking about Lydia, about my biological mom. I wish I could have met her. I took her hand. Me too. From what I gathered, she was a good person, brave, strong. She was alone and scared. But she loved her baby. She loved you. Do you think she would be proud of me? Isabella asked with a trembling voice. I'm sure of it, I replied without hesitation. She would be incredibly proud of the woman you are, of your accomplishments, of your kind heart. I believe that from wherever she is, she watches over you. She protects you just like your dad, Matthew. Isabella smiled through tears. And are you Mom, Grandma? Are you proud of me? I looked into her eyes, those eyes that reminded me so much of my son. More than proud. You are the reason I am still here, the reason why every day is worth it. You saved me as much as I saved you. That night, before sleeping, I held both blankets, the old one and the new one. I thought about the entire journey, the pain, the losses, the secrets I had discovered, the justice I had achieved, and the love I had found in the midst of the darkness. The old blanket had been my guide, my map to the truth. It had contained the secret that unmasked a monster, that saved an innocent child, that brought justice for the dead. It was more than a simple blanket. It was a symbol of truth, of resilience, of maternal love. And now the new blanket represented the future. A future without lies, without pain, without dark secrets. It was the promise that Isabella would have the life she deserved, full of love opportunities, hope. 2 blankets, 2 stories, 1 family. I got up from the bed. I went to Isabella's room. She was asleep, breathing softly. I approached. I smoothed her hair. I kissed her on the forehead. I love you, my child. My reason for living. She whispered something in her sleep. I didn't understand what, but she was smiling. That was enough. I went back to my room. I lay down. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I didn't have nightmares. I didn't dream of Ashley or of Matthew falling down the stairs or of Lydia screaming. I dreamed of peace, of a garden full of flowers, of Isabella laughing, of the future. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was coming through my window. Isabella was already awake making breakfast. It smelled like coffee and toast. Good morning, Mom, Grandma, she greeted me. Good morning, my love. I sat down at the table. I watched her move around the kitchen. So full of life, so strong, so different from the scared child I had rescued years ago. She had grown up. She had become someone incredible. And I had had the privilege of seeing it, of being part of her story, of helping her write a different ending than the one Ashley had planned. What are you thinking about? Isabella asked me while pouring me coffee. I smiled. How lucky I am to have you to have found that blanket that day. Isabella sat down across from me. I think about that too. How such a simple object changed everything. It saved my life. It wasn't the blanket, I told her. It was you, your existence, the love your dad felt for you. That was what gave me the strength to seek the truth, to never give up. We ate breakfast together. We talked about her plans, about college, about her dreams, and I felt that Matthew was there with us. Proud, happy. That afternoon, I decided to do something I had put off for years. I went to the cemetery to Matthew and Lydia's graves. They were in different sections, but I visited both of them. I brought flowers, lilacs for Matthew, white roses for Lydia. I knelt in front of my son's grave. Hello, my love. Isabella is doing well. She is growing up, beautiful, strong, smart. I know you would be proud of her. I am doing my best, trying to be for her what you would have been. I miss you every day. But I keep going for her. For you. Then I went to Lydia's grave. It was simpler. Fewer flowers, fewer visitors. Hello, Lydia. We didn't meet, but I am taking care of your daughter. I love her as if she were my own. She is wonderful. She inherited your strength, your bravery. I want you to know that she is safe, that she is happy, that she will never lack love. The wind blew softly. It moved the leaves of the nearby trees. I felt a strange peace, as if both of them were thanking me, as if they knew that I had kept my promise, that I had protected Isabella, that I had given her the life she deserved. I returned home as the sun began to set. Isabella was waiting for me with dinner ready. We ate together. We laughed. We told stories, and when it was time for bed, I went to my room. I took the new blanket, the one Isabella had given me. I wrapped myself in it, and as I closed my eyes, I thought about everything that simple blanket represented. The old one had guarded secrets. It had exposed lies. It had brought justice. The new unguarded promises, hopes, unconditional love, both were part of our story, of our journey. And as I looked at the stars through my window, I understood something profound. That water never forgets. That secrets always find a way to come out. That the truth, although painful, is always better than a lie. And that love, true love, survives any darkness. The blanket had been the beginning, but Isabella was the end. The happy ending. None of us expected the miracle that was born from the tragedy. And as I fell asleep, I whispered one last prayer for Matthew, for Lydia, for Adrian, for all of Ashley's victims. Rest in peace. Your sacrifice was not in vain. Isabella lives. Isabella thrives.